So I've got a polynomial. 14x to the 6 plus 56x squared. I want to factor this. I want to know what two things multiply together to make 14x to the 6 plus 56x squared. We're going to factor by using what's called a GCF, or greatest common factor. So to get a bigger idea of what's going on here, let's list out the factors of each of the two terms. What multiplies together to make 14x to the 6th? What times what is 14? 7 and 2. List out 2 times 7. How many x's multiply together to make x to the 6th? X to the 6th is how many x's all multiply together? 6. X to the 6th is x times x 6 different times. There's all the things that make up 14x to the 6th. I'll also do the same thing for 56x squared. Let's first factor 56. What multiplies together to make 56? 14. Keep factoring. 14 would be 2 times 7. 4 would be 2 times 2. So 8 times 7. 8 would be 2 times 2 times 2. So I think I'm going to list out 3 2's and a 7. All the different prime numbers that multiply that together to make 56. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 7 is 56. Well, x squared. Now we're thinking about GCF, the greatest common factor. Now that I've got all the factors listed out, let's see what they have in common. What shows up in 14x to the 6th and 56x squared? 2, 7. So my GCF is 2 times 7, which is 14. Doesn't 14 divide into both 14 and 56? We just proved that. How many x's can I cross off? 2 of them. Squared. X squared divides into both. It divides into x to the 6th and x squared itself. So when I list the factors, I'm going to start with the GCF, which is 14x squared. The next factor is everything that I didn't underline or didn't cross off, what they don't have in common. 14x squared times what makes 14x to the 6th? What's left over? X to the 4th, not 4x to the 4th, just the 4x will multiply that together. X times x times x times x is x to the 4th. Okay, I'm going to get that in a second. X to the 4th times 14x squared. What does that make again? These two multiply back together. What do you get? Right. So isn't a good way to check your work just to multiply them back together and get the same thing that you started with? You can always check your work by multiplying your two factors back together, and it should be the same thing you started with. Okay. Now I also need to make the next term, 56x squared. 14x squared times what makes 56x squared? What's left over? What didn't I cross off? What's 4 times 14x squared? 56x squared. About 5 minutes, man. All right, let's get some more practice.
I think we already have.
You can just in there then.
Okay. Good. I think on the
Like I said, you literally cannot do enough of these.
yeah, so do one where you do look off the thingy and do one by yourself.
Get some more practicing with GCF. Wrong back there, right?
So you could make this the answer key.
All right.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go right now. and then I'll do this. And then so I don't have to get all of them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, let's just kind of pick around and try a few of these here. Oh, how about number 2? We're going to factor 9x plus 36. Of course, you could write them all out like I did over here. If you're stuck, just write out the factors and see what they have in common. Let's see if we can do that without. 36 and 9x, what's the GCF? What divides into both of those two terms? 9. It's going to be it's going to be the greatest common factor. You're not wrong, but it's not the greatest common factor.
You're not wrong, but you're not right.
Not the most right answer. Okay. Now let's build the next factor by thinking about what I have to multiply 9 by to get back to where I started. 9 times what is 9x?
Okay.
9 times what is 36?
4.
Done. You're thinking about whether this is right or not. What should this multiply back together to make? 9x plus 36. You're just going to put them back together to get back where you start. Multiply them together. Should be the same thing you began with. 9 times x is 9x. 4 times 9 is 36. So that looks right. See, number 10 I thought I did last hour. Let's try that one too. Negative 8x to the 7th. 24x to the 6th. And 12x to the 5th. Got a trinomial factor now. Think about GCF. What divides into all 3?
4.
8 doesn't divide into 12. How about 4 then? 4 looks right. Let me ask you this though. What's the leading coefficient? Leading coefficient, very first number.
Negative 8.
Negative 8. When the leading coefficient is negative, I like to also factor out the negative in my GCF. I think it's a little bit cleaner if I take out the negative with the 4. If you don't, it's not wrong. It just might look a little bit different, a little bit less neat. I'm going to start with negative 4 for the GCF. Negative 4 divides into 12, 24, and negative 8. So we got that right. What's the x's I can also factor out? What's the most x's I can divide out in all 3 terms? 5. I can't take out x to the 6th or x to the 7th because there's not 7 x's and 12x to the 5th. The most number of x's I can take out is x to the 5th. The GCF would be the smallest power of x, wouldn't it? Because that would be the most number of x's I can divide out evenly from all 3 of them. Negative 4x to the 5th is the GCF. Let's put the rest back together. Negative 4 times what makes negative 8?
2.
You didn't factor out the negative. This would just switch signs back to negative 2. I don't like to have that quantity start with the negative. I don't know if that really looks very clean to me, so I just put the negative out. Need more though.
24.
Okay, I'm not done with the negative 8x to the 7th. All I've made so far is negative 8.
You need x.
Second, Bethany? Yeah. X to the 5th times what is x to the 7th? I put 5 of the 7 x's out here. I need 2 more back on the inside for the next factor. See what comes next. We got to do the next term. 24x to the 6th. Negative 4 times what is 24? Watch the negatives. What do I need? Negative 6. You don't put the negative, you've got a sign mistake. I'm going to make positive 24, so I need the 6 to also be negative. Got to make x to the 6th. Here's 5 of them. I think I need 1 more. What the last one?
3.
3 or negative 3?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Why no x's, John? Why is it just negative 3?
Because there's the certain amount of x's that there's control.
Yeah, I don't need any more x's. I already took 5 of them out for the GCF. think there was another good one. I think 1 was a good one we had last hour. 16p to the 4th plus 4p cubed. 4 does. I like 4. What else? 4 divides into 16 and 4, so I like that as the first part of the GCF. How about the variable? How many p's can I divide out evenly from all three? From both the two terms. Take the other factor. 4 times what is 16? Obviously, that's got to be it. 4. How many more p's do I need? I've got 3 here. Got to make 4 in total, so what else needs to go here? An extra p. Of course, multiply them back together. You should go back to where you start with. 4 times 4 is 16. P times p cubed is p to the 4th, so I think that's good. Here's the thing that took tally up last period. What's next? Plus what? Four p cubed times what is 4p cubed? Just 1. 4 times 1 is 4. P cubed times 1 is p cubed. I took everything out, so there's really just 1 left over. 1's factors are 4p cubed times quantity 4p plus 1.